Hey everybody. So my name is Rowan Brooks. I currently work at an early intervention clinic with children between the ages of 2 to 6. Um, when I become a BCBA, I'm planning on continuing to work in early intervention in the clinic setting, although I am interested in school settings as well. Experience that I have currently with FBAs is primarily, I've collected ABC data, and then I did an extensive functional behavior assessment as part of one of my class projects in my clinic last semester. But I put together a PowerPoint about functional behavior assessments and functional analysis, so we're going to switch to that now. All right, so let's begin. For my literature review, these are the three different articles that I read that we're going to focus on. So the first article I read was What Beginning Special Educators Need to Know About Conducting Functional Behavior Assessments. I thought this was a really good introduction article. It broke down functional behavior assessments into steps where the first step was to gather indirect data. That includes like your interviews, your checklists, your rating systems. Then, based on the indirect data, forming your hypothesis, um, what you think is the function of the behavior, and then from there, collecting direct data, either through direct observation or collecting ABC data. And then it said that after you conduct the functional behavior assessment, um, it discussed developing positive behavior support plans or behavior intervention plans to address the behavior. The second article that I read was Agreement Between Questions About Behavior Function, the Motivation Assessment Scale, Functional Assessment Interview, and Brief Functional Analysis of Children's Challenging Behavior. This study compared the Brief Functional Analysis, BFA, to three different indirect FBAs. Specifically, it looked at QABF, questions about behavior function, MAS, Motivation Assessment Scale, and Functional Assessment Interview, FAI. Overall, it found that the highest average agreement across functions was 66.75%, and that was the QBAF. These results indicated that the indirect FBAs could not accurately or consistently identify functions of behavior. However, the authors of the study thought that the FBAs could increase accuracy when used together, which I thought was very interesting. The third article that I looked at was Comparison of Functional Behavior Assessment Procedures to the Functional Analysis of Problem Behavior. This is kind of similar to the previous one where they're comparing different functional assessments. Um, so this one examined the convergence of different descriptive and indirect functional behavior assessments with experimental functional assessments, which they abbreviate as EFA, which we also just call functional analysis, FA. So the results indicated poor exact convergence, but higher partial convergence of different FBAs, the EFA. This data suggested that the FBA methods may not produce exact results, but can still overall identify functions of behavior. So, conducting a functional behavior assessment, when should you conduct one? Generally, FBA should be conducted whenever your client is engaging in the challenging behavior that you want to reduce. FBAs identify the function of the problem behavior so that function based interventions can be developed to decrease the behavior. What is a problem behavior? Problem behaviors are often also referred to as challenging or maladaptive behaviors. There are generally any behavior that interfere with the individual's safety or ability to learn or the safety of others around the individuals. Some examples of problem behaviors include property destruction, aggression, elopement, self-injury, disrobing, screaming. Obviously, these are not, and this is not an extensive list, and other things that can be considered problem behaviors, but these are just some common examples. So, FA versus FBA. FBA is functional behavior assessment. It includes three types: functional analysis, which is also experimental analysis, descriptive assessments. Those are things such as direct observation or taking ABC data, which is taking data on the antecedent, the behavior itself, and then the consequence that happens after the behavior. And indirect assessments. These are things such as interviews with like caregivers, teachers, other individuals in the life involved in the life of the client, checklists, rating scales, questionnaires. And then FA, functional analysis, is technically a specific type of a functional behavior assessment. Experimental FBA method is the only one that allows for confirmation of the hypothesized functions of behavior. This is because you're taking the different environmental stimuli and testing them to determine functional relationships with problem behavior. So, for example, if you were testing whether the functional the function of the behavior was related to access to a tangible, you would test that tangible scenario separate from other conditions. This way you can look at each condition individually to try to figure out the function of the behavior. So when to use which? So I think it's really important to note that functional analyses should not be used for any behaviors that are dangerous to the client or others, such as self-injury. This is because you're intentionally trying to cause the behavior to happen to determine the function. And it would be unethical to purposefully cause your client to engage in that behavior. However, it is also important to note that FAs can give a more accurate identification of function of behavior because you are experimentally determining the cause of the behavior. So at my clinic, we primarily only conduct functional behavior assessments. Um, the components that we use at my clinic include interviews with the caregivers. We do indirect assessment that way. Direct observation. This includes like any kind of anecdotal data. A lot of times we use this to kind of determine like and get a general consensus of what the behavior is looking like, an idea, and then from there we start collecting ABC data. And normally we try to collect this data over a period of a couple of weeks, depending, because we want to have a lot of different examples so that we can really truly pin down what the function is. And then I went ahead and included an example of one of the ABC sheets that we've used before at my clinic. So over here we'll have like, the date, the time, the staff, like which person was working with the client, because the clients will go through different people. We'll have where the location happened, um, the antecedent, what happened right before the behavior, was the demand plays, transition, attention given, removal of attention. We have circle time, like independent play, playing with a peer, playing with a tech. Behavior. This one was catered to a specific client. So these were some of the behaviors that we were seeing more that we were trying to target. But obviously, you can make this flexible if you want to look at other behaviors. This client, for example, didn't have any instances of eloping, so we don't have that specifically on here. But some of the things that we were seeing frequently were crying, screaming, physical straining, head banging, hitting head with hands, throwing stuff on the floor, and dropping. And then we have a list of common consequences here, and then areas for notes. This makes it kind of easy just to like quickly check. That way we can keep moving on with our day, but also still being able to collect that data. Um, so in conclusion, what I really want to learn more about is different types of functional behavior assessments. Um, like I'm very familiar with using ABC data, obviously, but I wasn't as familiar with some of the different ones that were discussed in some of the articles I had read, um, including like the brief functional analysis. It seems very interesting because of how quickly it can be done. So I would like to learn more about those. Um, and I also want to know what experience you all have connecting FBAs or FAs. And please let me know if you have any questions. And I hope this was um, helpful and informative. And these are my references. All right. Thank you for listening.